Some cars are made to move people, but Porsche's 911, it was made to move the world. Since 1964, this little German sport car has been rewriting the rulebook. One rear engine, tire scratching chapter at a time. For over 60 years, the 911 has done what most cars had only dreamed of: stay relevant, stay dominant, and stay absolutely gorgeous. It's why all crises, financial meltdowns, and even the era of front-wheel drive sedans. Every time people said that rear engine layout will never work, Porsche engineers just smile, tighten their seat belts, and prove everyone wrong again. This 911 isn't just a car, it's the bloodline. From the early air-cooled beasts to turbocharged monsters today, it's evolved with the times while keeping its soul intact. Every generation tells a story of innovation, obsession, and a little bit of madness. And that's what makes the 911 so addictive. It's not the perfect, it's Porsche. So buckle up because we are going through the 6 decades of the flat 6 Ferrari. From the first slippery icon to the modern 992 that Asman faces. This is the evolution of Porsche's 911. Generation 1, Classics 911, 1964 to 1989. In 1964, the world was growing to the Beatles. People were dreaming of the moon, and the Porsches decided their 356 just wasn't spicy enough. Enter the 911. A car that looked like a kid frog but drove like a caffeinated cheetah. This wasn't just a facelift or a slightly bigger engine. No, Porsches were sending a message: we are here and we are going to shake the sports car world to its core. The first 911 came with 2.0-liter air-cooled flat 6 pushing about 130 horsepower. Tiny by today's standards, but back then, enough to make you grin uncontrollably while hugging every curve. Soon, the 911S raised and stakes to 160 horsepower, and by the early 70s, Porsche was offering 2.2-liter and 2.4-liter engines, each more aggressive than the last. And then come the holy grail, the Carrera OS 2.7. Lightweight, aerodynamic ductile, 210 horsepower. This wasn't just a car, it was a declaration. Collectors today pay millions for one, and if you ever get to see one in person, you'll understand why. The first generation 911 wasn't just for show. Porsche immediately threw it into battle. Monte Carlo rallies, check. Endurance races like Le Mans, double check. The Carrera OS4 and the 935 were basically 911s on steroids, obliterating competition. Racing wasn't just for trophies, it was Porsche testing ground. Every lesson learned on the track eventually trickled down to the road cars. So when you bought a 911, you weren't just buying a sports car, you were buying decades of brass-proven engineering. So back then, the rounded headline, the teardrop roofline, and the engine that hanging out at the back, everyone said it was crazy, but I said, that's right, that's it, and it worked beautifully. Over the years, the body evolved: wider fenders, well-tailed spoilers for the turbo, more aggressive stance, but the silhouette never lost its soul. Park a 911 next to a modern one and you'll instantly see the family resemblance. That's the magic of Porsche evolution without losing identity. And to be honest, the 930 Turbo earned its nickname Videomaker for a reason. Turbo leg plus a rear engine layout, one wrong throttle, and you were spinning like a slot car. Yet fans love it. By the late 80s, the first generation had cemented its place as a legend. From the Carrera OS 2.7 to the 930 Turbo, every model screamed Porsche DNA, fast, fearless, and impossible to ignore. Even today, if you see a Gen 1 911 cruising down the street, your heart does a little flip. That's the legacy, pure, timeless, and absolutely addictive. Generation 2, Porsche's 964, 1989 to 1994. In 1989, Porsche had a problem. The fourth generation 911 was legendary, but the world was changing. Drivers wanted more comfort, safety, and more gadgets. But Porsche wasn't about to lose that raw, rare engine soul. Enter the 964. The 964 was like a 911 with a PhD. It kept the iconic look, the round headlights, the teardrop roofline, but under the skin, it was a proper modern sports car. For the first time, you could get ABS brake, power steering, and even air conditioning without feeling guilty. Porsche was saying, we can be civilized, but don't worry, we're still crazy. The 964 came with a 3.6-liter air-cooled flat 6, producing roughly 250 horsepower, enough to make your pulse race. Transmission options included the classic 5-speed manual and, for the first time, an optional Tiptronic automatic for those who wanted the thrill without the heel and toe chaos. And yes, Porsche introduced all-wheel drive with the 964 Carrera 4. Suddenly, you could corner like a bro in rain or snow without spinning out. A massive leap forward for usability, but it didn't take away the 911's character. Rear engine antics were still very much alive, especially on the Carrera 2. The 964 lineup was still a fan favorite. There was the Carrera 2 rear-wheel drive purest dream, the Carrera 4 all-wheel drive, making winter driving less terrifying. Then came the Turbo 3.3 and later 3.6 screaming wide-body monsters that carry the legacy of the original 930. Porsche even made a OS America for enthusiasts who wanted lightweight, raw performance, and nothing extra. Basically, it was like the 911 equivalent of a black belt in karate, refined and lethal if you messed with it. On the track, the 964 was no slouch. It competed in endurance races, rally-inspired events, and even IMSA competitions. The car proved that you could modernize the 911 without diluting its racing DNA. The 964 taught a generation of drivers how versatile a 911 could be. It was the bridge between the classic raw 911 and the modern, technologically advanced 911 we know today. And it did all this while still giving you that grind every time you match the throttle out of a corner. So the 964 is Porsche statements. Be evolving, but don't expect us to lose our age. So next we step into the Generation 3, the 993, the last of the air-cooled legends. Generation 3, Porsche's 993, 1995 to 1998. So in 1995, the world had gone digital. The phone started to fit into your pocket. Porsche still had a masterpiece that has to deliver before saying goodbye to the air-cooled engine. Enter the 993, the final air-cooled 911 and a legend in its own right. The 993 wasn't just another 911. It was like a fine wine, the combination of decades of engineering perfected for balance, speed, and style. Every curve, every inch of chassis tuning screamed Porsche mastery. The 993 came with a 3.6-liter flat 6, producing around 272 horsepower in the Carrera and up to 285 horsepower in the Carrera S. The transmission was still a 6-speed manual, perfect for heel and toe enthusiasts, and for those who like some extra grip. Porsche continued their all-wheel drive system in the Carrera 4 and 4S. But here's the magic. The 993 introduced a new multi-link rear suspension, vastly improving handling and reducing the tail-happy antics of older 911s, vastly improving handling and reducing the tail-happy antics of older 911s. Finally, you could push the car harder into corners without wondering if you spin into a ditch. The 993 lineup was full of goodies for every kind of enthusiast. The Carrera S, the Carrera 4, and the 4S covered daily usability and weekend thrills. Then came the Turbo, now with twin turbocharging, wider fenders, and a 480 8 horsepower, a proper strict missile. There was also the OS stripped down for racing and the Turbo S, which basically said, yes, I can embrace more supercars on the road. Fun fact, the 993 Turbo was the first 911 to feature twin turbocharging in the modern era, giving it insane acceleration and making it arguably one of the fastest 911s of the 90s. The 993 finally modernized the body while keeping the classic 911 silhouette intact. Headlights stayed round, but bumpers, fenders, and air intakes were all smoother, more aerodynamic, and more elegant. Air-cooled engines were reaching their engineering peak, perfectly balanced, perfectly tuned, and perfectly angry when you storm the throttle. For collectors and fans, the 993 represents the pinnacle of the old-school 911 before the water-cooled era began. So the 993 is like the last dance of the air-cooled legends. So it was gorgeous, fast, and unassembly raw. So then we step into the 996, the first water-cooled 911, and it caused a few arguments among purists. Generation 4 Porsche 996, 1999 to 2004. In 1999, the 911 were gone digital, phone was shrinking, MP3 back then was new, and Porsche had a big move that shocked purists worldwide. The 996, the first 911 that had water-cooled flat 6. The air-cooled era had ended and some fans were ready to riot. But Porsche knew what they were doing. More reliability, more power, and less fear of engine overheating. The 996 was evolution whether everyone liked it or not. The standard 996 Carrera came with a 3.4-liter water-cooled flat 6, producing around 300 horsepower. Later models like the Carrera S and 996 Turbo pushed that further, with the turbo hitting 420 horsepower, and yes, it was still a rare engine rocket. Transmissions included a 6-speed manual or the refined Tiptronic automatic, while the Carrera 4 and Turbo feature all-wheel drive for better traction. The car was faster, more stable, and more usable on the street than any 911 before it. The 996 lineup had something for everyone: the Carrera for daily thrill, the Carrera 4 for all-weather fun, and the Turbo, now with twin turbocharging for those who wanted to 35 sports car twice their price. And yes, they are lies. The infamous fried eggs, fans either love them or dip. They are a symbol of change, controversy, and a generation that pushed the 911 into the 21st century. There was also the GT3, a stripped-down track-focused hero, and the GT2, a turbocharged monster for the brave and slightly insane. So the 996 look more sleeker, lower, and more modern than the 993. Aerodynamics improved and the interiors feel more luxurious, and the car feels like it belonged to the new millennium. But the soul of the 911 remained: the engine layout, precise handling, and that green introducing flat 6 soundtrack. Purists might have cried over the water cooling, but fans who drove it, they fell in love almost immediately. So the 996 was divisive, but it modernized the 911 in a way no one else could. Next up, the Generation 5, the 997, where Porsche brought back the classic styling and refined everything to perfection. Generation 5 Porsche 997 2005 to 2012. So in 2005, Porsche learned a valuable lesson: if it ain't broke, make it look less. Controversial into the 997, a 911 that brought back the classic rounded headlights and proportion we all knew and loved, and still keep the same technology that Porsche had developed in the 996. This was the generation that said, we listen to you purists, and by the way, we made it faster. The 997 lineup had a bit of everything. the Carrera and the Carrera S for daily drivers who still wanted thrills, Carrera 4 and 4S for all-weather fanatics, the GTS combined power and style for the enthusiasts who wanted a bit of flair, and then came the Turbo and Turbo S. Wide body monsters with mind-blowing acceleration, the GT3 returned as a naturally aspirated track-focused hero, and the GT2 was pure chaos, turbocharged, rear-wheel drive, and completely unforgiving. The ultimate playground for brave drivers. The 997 was also the generation that really cemented Porsche reputations for mixing heritage styling with modern technology. Fans finally had the best of both worlds. The 997 design was elegant yet aggressive. Round headlights, muscular rear arches, and a slightly longer wheelbase made it more stable at high speeds. Interiors were upgraded, luxury touches added, but the driving experience remained pure 911. Responsive, precise, and exhilarating. So the 997 was Porsche perfecting the popular classic looks, modern touch, and insane performance. Next up, Gen 6, the 991, where Porsche stretched the car, added more touch, and took the 911 into the modern era. Generation 6, Porsche 991 2012 to 2019. In 2012, Porsche decided to stretch the 911, literally enter the 991. Longer wheelbase, wider drag, and more stability, and all the modern tech a sport car enthusiasts could dream of. This was the 911 that bridged classic driving excitement with modern convenience. You still got that re-engine grin, but now it was backed by precision engineering that made corners feel like magic carpets instead of hair racing chaos. The 991 Carrera came with a 3.4-liter flat six, producing about 350 horsepower, and the Carrera S got a 3.8-liter with 400 horsepower. Turbocharging became standard on many variants, boosting performance even further. Transmission included the 7-speed manual and the first truly refined PDK dual-clutch automatics, which made shifting almost instantaneous, faster than you could blink. All-wheel drive was available on Carrera 4 models, giving drivers more confidence in corners and rain. The 991 lineup had something for everyone: the Carrera and the Carrera S for refined daily performance, Carrera 4 and 4S for all-wheel drive fun, GTS for the perfect mix of style and power. Then came the Turbo and Turbo S, wide body monsters with mind-blowing acceleration, and for the drag fanatics, the GT3 returned, naturally aspirated, screaming its way around corners with surgical precision. The GT3 OS took it even further, stripped down and ready to terrify the tarmacs. Fun fact: the 991 was also lighter than the 997. Thanks to more aluminum in the chassis, brewing Porsche could stretch the car and add touch without losing agility or soul. So the 991 was like 911 grown up, sleeker, wider, more aerodynamic, yet unmistakably a Porsche. Interiors were fully modernized with larger screens, better economics, and more comfort, but the driving experience stayed pure 911, precise, thrilling, and addictive. The 991 proved that you could evolve at technology and keep the raw joy of driving intact. It was Porsche telling the world, "Be modern, but we'll never forget who we are." So the 991 brought the 911 into the modern era with more touch, more stability, and even more grind-inducing performance. Next up, Gen 7, the 992, the current Porsche 911, and here we'll go deep into every trim from Carrera to Turbo S and GT3. Generation 7 Porsche 992 2019 celebration. So in 2019, Porsche decided to go big. Meet the 992, a 911 that got wider, more powers, and more digital, and unmistakably a 911. This generation is proof that evolution doesn't mean losing soul. Every trim, every engine, every wheel feels like a perfect continuation of over 55 years of flat-six madness. The best Carrera comes with a 3.0-liter twin-turbo flat-six, producing around 385 horsepower. Step up to the Carrera S and you get a 450 horsepower with super handling. Carrera 4 models give you all-wheel drive, perfect for rainy days or pushing harder through corners. Transmission options include the 8-speed PDK dual clutch or the classic manual on select trims. Turbo models, the turbos pump out 580 horsepower and the Turbo S goes all the way to 650 horsepower, hitting 0 to 60 in just 2.6 seconds. Rear exhaust steering, adaptive suspension, and carbon ceramic brakes make this car feel like making on wheels. So the detailed trims, we got Carrera and Carrera S based on S models for daily thrill and balanced performance. Rear all-wheel drive Carrera 4 and 4S, sleek modern interiors with Porsche communication management PCM screens. Next up, we have GTS, midway between Carrera S and Turbo, with sportier suspension, wider tires, and extra power, 480 horsepower, aggressive styling, and sporty interior touches. And then we have Turbo and Turbo S, wide-body twin-turbocharged engines. Turbo S with 650 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, top-tier technology, adaptive aero, rear exhaust steering, and dynamic engine mounts. Next up, we have Targa, iconic retractable roof bar, available in 4 or 4S trims, combine open-air fan with all-wheel drive stability. Next up, we have GT3 or GT3 RS, drag-focused heroes, naturally aspirated 4.0-liter flat-six, 502 horsepower in GT3, up to 518 horsepower in GT3 RS. Aerodynamic wings, lightweight build, and steering precision for track fanatics. The last edition, we have special edition Dakar limited run adventure inspired 911 beef up suspension and rock tires. Other limited edition sport classic exclusive trims for collectors and enthusiasts. The 992 feels modern yet classic, wider stands, muscular fenders, connected LED headlights, unmistakably Porsche. Interiors are tech-rich, digital dashboards, touchscreen PCM, driver assist features, but every time you mash the throttle, the raw flat-six soundtrack reminds you this is still a 911 at heart. So the 992 is the ultimate expression of the 911 today. Every trim has a purpose. Every variant thrills, and the evolution from 1964 to now, absolutely insane. From the first generation frog-faced legend to today's 992 monsters, the Porsche's 911 proves one thing: evolution can be epic, fast, and unforgettable. So all of this is not about speed or horsepower, it's about feel. It's how the 911 hugs the corner, the soundtrack of the classic engine, and the grind you can hide every time you mash the throttle. The 992 carries all the legacy, every color, every technology, every detail, and still connects to the same passion we felt for the very first 911. It's a car you don't just drive, you experience, you bond with, and you never forget. As enthusiasts, we love the 911 because it represents the perfect balance of heritage, innovation, and pure, unfiltered joy. It's timeless, it's thrilling, and no matter how modern it gets, it still feels like it's home on the road. That's why the Porsche 911 from the first generation to today's 992 will always have a special place in our hearts.